Number 5. You focused on inner peace, not external validation. You stopped asking if she noticed. You stopped wondering if she cared. You stopped waiting for likes, replies, or signs that maybe, just maybe, she still thinks about you, because real power begins the moment you no longer need the world to applaud your growth. You shifted your attention inward, and that changed everything. You began choosing silence over sympathy, progress over posts, purpose over performance. You stopped broadcasting your pain and started building your peace. No longer did you need her validation to feel worthy. No longer did you seek proof that walking away was the right move. You already knew it was, because you felt it in your bones. As Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and it begins the moment you stop seeking permission to exist." That's what you claimed. Freedom, not just from her, but from the approval addiction you didn't realize you had. See, the old you might have posted cryptic quotes to get a reaction. The old you might have waited for her to notice your success. But the new you realized peace doesn't need an audience. Your progress became sacred. Your peace became non-negotiable. Your worth became intrinsic, no longer measured by someone else's attention span. And the irony? The moment you stopped trying to be seen is the moment the world, including her, started noticing. But by then, you weren't doing it for them anymore. You weren't proving a point. You were living in alignment. Because when a man walks the path, if in a stillness, he becomes untouchable by the noise outside of him. You stopped asking, "Does she see what she lost?" And you started asking, "Am I becoming who I'm meant to be?" That shift didn't just change your focus, it changed your life. Number 6. You became unreachable. By growing, she thought she could come back whenever she wanted. She thought you'd stay where she left you. Waiting, hoping, hurting, but time has a way of revealing truths that silence hides, because while she was testing your value, you were building it. While she was busy ignoring, you were busy evolving, and when she finally turned around to see if you were still there, you weren't. Not out of bitterness, not out of revenge, but because you had outgrown the place she left you in. She didn't expect you to grow in her absence. She expected you to pause your life, like so many do, clinging to hope, stuck in yesterday. But you moved forward, and you moved in silence. You read, you trained, you reflected, you worked on your soul like a sculptor chiseling a masterpiece. Not to impress her, but to finally meet the man you were always meant to become. As Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." You stopped wasting time explaining your worth to someone who couldn't recognize it, and slowly, without rage, without noise, you became unreachable. Not physically, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. Because now, the version of you she knew no longer exists. And the man you've become, he no longer fits into the small space she once gave him. You stopped being accessible to the past. You stopped entertaining confusion. You stopped being the man who waits to be chosen and became the man who chooses himself. The most painful thing for someone who took you for granted is realizing the door they slammed shut no longer leads to the same man. She can knock, but the silence will answer, not out of cruelty, but because you've grown beyond the noise. Number 7. Your detachment became her mirror at first. She didn't notice your silence. She thought your distance was just temporary, a phase you'd grow out of like every time before. But this time something was different. You weren't quiet to make her miss you. You weren't withholding to manipulate a reaction. You were simply detached. And that detachment, it wasn't cold, it was calm, it wasn't anger, it was awareness. You realized that the more you begged to be understood, the more you abandoned your own peace. So you stopped, not to punish her, but to protect yourself. Because There's a moment in every man's journey when he stops trying to prove his worth to someone who never saw it in the first place. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." That's the essence of Stoic detachment. It's not about indifference, it's about discipline. It's about owning your energy and refusing to let someone else direct your emotional state. And here's the truth she didn't expect. Your detachment became a mirror. Suddenly she saw what she had done, not through your words but through your stillness, not through accusations but through your absence. Because when a man no longer reacts, when he no longer tries to fix, chase or convince, he forces the other person to sit alone with their choices. And in that silence, she heard everything. She remembered the moments you stayed, the way you showed up, the things you tolerated just to hold on. And for the first time, she saw herself clearly. That mirror, your detachment, did what your love couldn't. It revealed the truth. And while she may never say it, she felt it. She felt what it meant to lose the version of you who once waited. She felt the void of a man who no longer needed her to heal, because you didn't just walk away. You leveled up quietly, and now the man who once fought to stay is the man she can no longer reach. Final thought. You didn't lose her, you found yourself. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about proving a point. This was about finally honoring the man within, the one who waited too long for someone else to recognize his worth. You didn't chase, you didn't beg, you didn't fall apart. You rose slowly, quietly, and with purpose. And that right there is the essence of Stoicism. Not emotional suppression, but emotional strength. Not detachment from people, but detachment from outcomes you can't control. Because the truth is, you were never truly asking for her to stay. You were asking for someone to see you, to value your loyalty, your depth, your effort. And when she didn't, you did something most men never do. You stopped waiting, you stopped performing, you stopped hoping for closure. You became it. You chose inner peace over outer validation, growth over comfort, principles over reaction. And when you did, the world changed. Not because they changed, but because you did. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You let go with grace, you responded with wisdom, and you walked away, not to teach her a lesson, but to finally learn your own. This wasn't the end of your story. It was the moment you began writing it for yourself, unapologetically, intentionally, powerfully. And by the time they realize what they lost, you're not angry, you're not waiting. You're too far ahead, at peace, evolving, and free. That's what Stoicism is, and that's who you've become.